Barnes and Leslie. 99.
It's awful. I'm at that age where everybody I know is getting married. People, let me ask you a question. Why do people keep getting married? You know what I mean? Isn't anybody looking at the stats? What's it like? 3 out of 4 marriages go right down the drain now? People, if you were going skydiving and they told you 3 out of 4 parachutes weren't going to open, you'd be like, yo, forget it, I'm not going. I don't like those odds. I got a 75% chance of splatting on the ground. I'm not doing it. But there's something about getting married. People just have to do it, right? They're just like, is this the line to lose half my stuff? Awesome. This is going to be great. I don't get it. It's like this herd mentality. How many buffalo can you watch go over the cliff and you're still like, well, maybe I can fly?
It is time to talk about the sensitive topic of divorce. But fortunately, I have not one but 2 experts flanking my side. There's Crash. Hi, Crash. And of course, Jared Oxendine, oxlawfirm.com. How are you, Jared?
Good morning, X. Doing amazing. I'm a little intimidated by Crash as always. He's got a little more experience than I do in that department, but let's do this, baby.
But he's on the other side. Okay, I want to get into one, and I can't tell you how many people out in the wild come up and say that the information you give out there, they're so thankful for it. While they're not getting divorced right now, well, some of them might be, they are loaded and locked with information. I want to ask about a very confusing topic, and that would be prenups.
Oh.
Because I hear stories, and I heard a story recently, someone talking about someone, like they had done a prenup. This is in a totally other city from here, and that the person was getting out of the prenup. And I was like, you know what? The next time we have Jared Oxendine on, I got to get into this. Can you get out of a prenup?
Well, if they're done right, you can't, which is kind of the whole point. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've had some people come in my office recently, and they hired the wrong attorney, and the prenuptial agreement is all screwed up. And so I've filed motions to enforce a prenuptial agreement, hoping the attorney on the other side didn't really know what they were doing. And, of course, they called it, and I just voluntarily dismissed my motion. Of course, those are not ones that I drafted. But there are very particular things that have to be in a prenuptial agreement, including a full disclosure of the financial assets. You have to give the other side the right to get an attorney, and there's just a lot of other boxes that have to be checked. And if you don't do that right, then you do run the risk of your prenuptial agreement being set aside. And what's funny is now that I've been doing this over 20 years, I'm starting to see some of my prenuptial agreements that I drafted myself come back in my office. And
wow.
These clients are always so happy that they did this, 10 years ago or whatever. And of course, we're filing the divorce, and the other side has no choice because it's done correctly, and those prenuptial agreements are getting enforced. So very important if you're coming into the marriage with a business, you're coming into the marriage with significant assets, you plan on accumulating significant wealth during the marriage, it's just a no-brainer to get a prenuptial agreement.
I do have a question, though, because I think a lot of people hear that word prenup and they think, oh, that's not for me. That's only for like the Jeff Bezoses of the world. Like, is it really only for wealthy people, or should everyone consider a prenup?
Anybody that has anything to lose should consider one. I mean, keep in mind at the end of the day, a lot of people think we end up fighting mostly over custody and parenting time, and we do. But you know what? We always find ourselves arguing about the most at the very end of our settlement conferences or in court, and that's over the money. And it doesn't matter whether it's $5 million or $500,000. People want to make sure that they are financially protected. So if you have any accumulation of assets or wealth or income before you get married, or you plan on accumulating some significant assets or wealth during the marriage, you want to protect that regardless of the amount if it's anywhere close to significant.
All right, we're talking to Jared Oxendine, Oxendine Law. This is an interesting situation, Jared. I've got a new girlfriend, only 6 months, but I'm already moving in with her, and we're doing a lot of house repairs. I mean, she's got an old house, so we're putting in tens of thousands of dollars in repairs. Let's say we get married. Do I build that into a prenup like, hey, if this doesn't work, I'm not on the hook for all these repairs? How does that work to build a prenup like that?
Oh, Crash, here you go again, buddy. I tell you, man, bless your heart.
He's putting repairs.
I'm glad you're asking the questions, though. But look, yeah, I mean, if anytime you put something in joint names, you're going to be jointly liable. And I see that all the time. Let's say that you don't end up getting married and y'all acquire this house together and you start accumulating these debts for improvements and repairs and it's in both of y'all's names and then you break up, well, you're both on the hook. Or even worse, let's say that you only put it in one person's name and you never get married. Well, the person who has that debt in their name is now going to be on the hook, even though maybe the other person agreed to be responsible for that debt. So you got to be careful how you treat assets that you accumulate while you're a couple together before you get married, because either somebody's going to lose out on something potentially or somebody's going to be on the hook for something that they don't want to be on the hook for.
Is Georgia a good state to have a prenup? Because I know it goes state by state, right? Or how dangerous they can be or how good or bad?
Yeah, some states are much more friendly to prenuptial agreements than others. Georgia is very solid. As long as you check all the boxes, it's drafted correctly, all the proper financial disclosures are there, and there's a lot of other things. We won't waste time on this phone call today talking about all those particulars. But if it's done right, Georgia courts recognize prenuptial agreements, and they have to enforce them.
Okay, well then, a specific question then. For someone that's an oil tycoon like me, my friends laugh at me, but they all want to be...
He's a landman.
I'm a landman now. So if I inherited something like this and then I was deciding to get married, so can a prenup or will a prenup protect like family inheritance or family businesses or existing businesses? Will that be protected, or do you have to call it out specifically?
Well, good question. So keep in mind, inheritances are already separate anyway. So let's say you're married and you inherit something. As long as it's only given to you and you never put your spouse's name on it and you don't commingle it with marital funds, that is your separate property in the event of a divorce anyway. But you still want to disclose that in a prenuptial agreement. If you're anticipating that you're going to inherit a lot of money and you don't disclose that when you prepare the prenuptial agreement, that actually can be grounds to set it aside because you knew you were going to get this big oil tycoon inheritance and you didn't disclose it to your spouse, and then later on you get divorced and like, oh, you didn't disclose this even though you knew you were getting millions of dollars, and so therefore this should be set aside. And then businesses, yes, businesses can be and should be always included in prenuptial agreements because those can be completely protected. And I see it all the time where people get married and they already have a business, but the business is worth X number of dollars. But then during the marriage, that business increases in value significantly. And if you haven't protected that business in the prenuptial agreement, then that increase in value that occurs to that business during the marriage is now marital and subject to division.
Well, Jared Oxendine, thank you for that assumption of my millions of dollars in oil. I appreciate that you didn't just say hundreds of dollars. It makes me feel good with my fantasy.
Did that clear things up for you, Mr. Landman? I mean, did that help you?
Very clear.
Jared, I do have a question, though. What if you feel pressured to actually sign a prenup? Like, what advice would you give someone?
Look, if you're feeling pressure, get an attorney. Seriously, everybody should have an attorney negotiating these things because they really are a big deal. And I can't tell you how many times I see the person who doesn't really want to sign off on the prenuptial agreement, but they really want to get married, and they just sign it. They don't get an attorney to look at it. I don't even know if they read it half the time. They should, but they just sign off on it. Now, I will say one of the grounds to set aside a prenuptial agreement is if you're under duress when you sign it. Now, that's a high. So duress means like literally somebody's holding you at gunpoint and threatening you. And if you don't sign it, then they're going to, inflict bodily harm on you. So it's a high burden. But if you can prove that you were forced into this thing, you were under duress, you weren't given a fair opportunity to review it ahead of time and consult with an attorney, that actually can be grounds to have it set aside. So if you feel pressured, number one, don't sign it. Number two, get your own attorney. And, you might want to reassess how important this marriage is. If this thing is really one-sided and it's not fair and they're pressuring you in and forcing you in to sign this thing, what is that going to say about the rest of your marriage when it just comes to figuring out how much the grocery bill is going to be and who's going to pay for it?
Well, all joking aside, if this is something that has crossed your mind, and divorce is an important topic, it's something that, that's freedom. So Jared Oxendine would be the first call that I would make, and I would think that you hear from the great information he puts out every couple of months that this is where you need to go. OxLawFirm.com is how you find him. Jared Oxendine, always a pleasure.
We appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
What is the hottest thing a girl has ever said to you?
So one time, my wife, just one time, I asked her what she wanted to eat, and she actually straight up gave me an answer. It was hot.
The Morning X with Barnes and Leslie. 99X.
Hello, my loves. It's Lala Kent. Yes, that Lala. And if you're not listening to the Give Them Lala podcast, here's what you're missing out on.
I stayed with my 2 kids. Mom and Kristen shared a room, and you and Landon shared a room. What the hell is going on? A lesbian couple, a gay couple, and then this
random woman with 2 kids.
So weird, but to me, it's the most common thing. This is my brother, his best friend, and my mom and her best friend. This is just how we roll. This is called the pod, okay?
Give Them Lala. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.